cycling up. There we are. We are in. We are in. Let's see. See this load in. This whole StreamYard thing's brand new to me. I've never used it before.
It's pretty easy. Actually, it's a lot easier than just going straight through YouTube.
Yeah. There we go. And we are. I'm noticing it. It's up on the tube. Let's see what it looks like on that side. Well, that just looks like my 3-hour compilation video. Hold on a second. What's happening, gang? Thank you for joining us. We have our dear friend and former studio mate Art Thibert in the house.
Hey, y'all.
Oh, there we are. I can see it. We are in. What's up, Kevlar Blast Shield? Hello, Matt Cisco. Hello, Chris Akuma, Rooster Puncher. Slick Rick, what's up, dude? Bad Noise, he's in. We got Matt Yackey in the house. You remember Andre Kromov?
Yeah.
That's sure. Andre right there.
This is your pink shirt, Art. Whenever I think of you back in the day, messing around with Dan Panosian, it's a little dark in here, but you used to be wearing this pink shirt. So I just wanted to say hi. It's been awesome, to have you on here. And this shirt, this pink shirt, always makes me think of you and Dan Panosian messing around in the color area. So good to see you, man.
So you guys live close together?
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing, man. We moved here. My family and I moved here last year and found out that Andre lived out here, and then Matt Yackey moved here like a month later. So I've got like some of my crew from California. It just feels good.
They're stalkers.
Yeah,
extreme stalkers. Well, I think some of my best color work on black and white was done by Andre.
Yeah, Andre is a man, and he hasn't been coloring it. He's been creating apps and being awesome.
Hanging out with you
and hanging out with me. That's where the awesome. I hope some of it will rub off on me. So tell us about first off, tell us about your Indiegogo campaign, because it looks awesome. I know it's called Chrono Mechanics.
Yes.
I put your guy in the banner, the guy with the wrench slung over his shoulder. Who is he? Who are the Chrono Mechanics? Why does the Couchdoodles audience, why do they need to go to your page immediately?
Because it's the greatest book of all time.
Yeah.
Chrono Mechanics, they do more before the dawn of time than most people do all day. So the guy with the wrench, his name's Oot, and he's a prehistoric caveman when he's not a mechanic. And then the guy with the sledgehammer is Caravaggio, and he's loosely based on the real Renaissance artist Caravaggio.
Yeah.
And the guy with the blowtorch is Zin, and he's an intergalactic child deity. And the slacker in the foreground with the guitar is Doug, or the D, as he's known in the 1970s. He's worshipped as a rock god. So basically,
I should be able to pull it up. Hold on a second. I'm gonna pull up because I'm learning how to do this this whole StreamYard thing, and my audience has been so very kind and patient. I even had some of them join in on the chat yesterday. It was great. We had a really good time, but slowly we learn step by step how to do these things. Because like I said before, my old setup is all completely iOS based. I was running off of phones and iPads, and then when I said, "Hey, let's get you on," I thought, "Hey, I can just do a chat. There's got to be a chat feature on this thing." There wasn't. So it ended up not being so great in the beginning, but we figured it out.
Yeah, it's all good. And if some of your followers are the same as mine, they're pretty forgiving, because I have a whole year of doing bad streams.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, I'm going to bring this over to this screen so they can see it. I got something called share screen. We learned about this yesterday. Let me grab this other mouse here. Share screen.
There's a lot
We,
of buttons to
we,
push.
we want to share this one here. So boom, there it is. Let's talk about it.
Yes. All right. Well, Chronomechanics, they're a group or a team of time traveling repairmen in a nutshell. So it's a pretty kind of fun and silly idea. The tone is Looney Tunes meets H.G. Wells. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, at this point, it's a 48-page graphic novel. We're hoping to get it up to a 60-page graphic novel. We have stretch goals to help us do so. And so this is a book that I created maybe, oh my gosh, 15 years ago. There's the number 7 that pops up all the time throughout the book. And you being a father, relate to this. Amanda was 7 years old. My daughter was 7 years old when I came up with this. So the number 7 pops up everywhere. So they're team 9.2 of Sector 7. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a cool logo too. It very comic booky. It pops. And that's one.
Oh, go ahead.
One of the things that I think is really exciting about 2018 and 2019 is awesome creators like yourself. I've seen Ivan Race, Bart Sears, Andy Smith, Ethan Van Sciver, a bunch of guys coming out with their passion projects. And it's great because we talked about this yesterday a little bit, how, and I use the analogy of children. Like, I'd be happy to babysit your kids and I'll take care of them like they're my own. But I'm only going to be like hugging and sniffing my kids' hair. Like, I want to huff my kids' hair and hug them. I'm not going to do that for your kids. And that's how I feel when I'm working on someone else's project. I will totally take care of it, but I don't want to hug it, and you could see the love and care on your page. And I've backed a few books, and when I've gotten my books, and I've backed Indiegogo campaigns, I've backed Kickstarter campaigns. I've just found that, like, when it's your baby, that you just feel the love, and sometimes that sort of thing isn't available, like especially in mainstream. There's that heart, bam, and so how long? How long's your campaign? I see that you've passed your 8,000 goal. You're creeping up on 10,000. What's your next goal? When are you going to hit? When is it going to change over to 60 pages?
If you scroll, you'll be able to see the stretch goals. They're at the very end of the campaign, and so I don't remember the actual numbers right now, but it's at 20K. If you keep going, it's at the very end. You'll see that we have.
Oh, look at these great covers, man! Jeez.
You know who Tom Bancroft is?
I don't, but I know Aaron Lopresti. I know Cheeks. I know Carlo Barbieri. I know him.
Yeah.
But these are, oh, here's your stretch goals. Bam. Pin, guitar pick. That's a great idea. 6 more pages. Perfect binding. This is neat, man.
And my favorite is the golden ticket. So I stole this from the Willy Wonka idea, where 1 out of every 10 backers will get the golden time card. And we're going to print this up, foil, embossed, everything. So we're going to put it inside just randomly in a book. And if you get the time card, you have to fill out the time card and then send it back to me, and I'll do a doodle of one of the Chronomechanics for you.
That's great, man. I thought you were going to say they get to see the secrets of Hack Shack. Like, to get to... I think I visited there one time, like back in the 90s, like right before you were at Extreme. We came to visit you over
with Jeff, or was it because I had 2 different office space?
It was the one that was in I think it was near Savvy Ranch in Yorba Linda.
Yeah, La Palma, off La Palma. Yeah, but they were right next to each other. I think they were 2 doors down. So I shared space with Jeff Matsuda and Sam Liu and Chap.
Right.
And then those guys went off to Sony Pictures and started doing the animation thing. And so then I moved 2 doors down into a smaller facility and kept the Hack Shack love going.
That's where I went. I went to that one because I think they had already gone. An interesting sidebar regarding those guys leaving and going to Sony. I remember being at Extreme when they came to Rob and said, "Hey, Rob, we've been made this offer and we're leaving, and there's nothing." And Rob would say, "Hey, is there anything I can get you to stay?" And they were like, "Nope." And I remember being there when that happened. And then flash forward to 2013, I'm working with this gentleman at Mattel, a very smart guy named Audu Payton. He's an executive producer and showrunner. And as it turns out, he was the guy that brought Jeff and Sam and Chap into animation. So, it was like we both kind of went through similar gateways getting into that world. One of the things that was really interesting, because my first time seeing your work was over Dan Jurgens. It was sometime in like 1990, maybe. I had seen your work over Jurgens. It was 1991. It was before you were working on Wills and Jim. If I remember correctly, my timeline may be off, but I just remember seeing it. I remember instantly being magnetized to your line and the way that you ink and the way you handled things. It was this. We had this. I don't know. We would say the Scott Williams wiggle and then the Art Thibert bloop. You had that really distinct bloop to your stuff, which gave things an incredible amount of bounce. Where did that come from? Was that a decision, or is that just like was it that a natural thing?
I think it was just kind of it was partially a natural thing. And I always liked Barry Windsor Smith. I liked his fluidity of line and just spontaneity. So I think I got some of it from there. And it actually just feels natural to put like a little pressure at the end sometimes instead of straight pull outs. You can do a pull out and then push back in, and you get that little bloop. And I like a lot of the European guys too. So I believe that's where that came from. And where I really had the big breakthrough is when I was doing finishes over Dan, like you said. But I used to hang out at the Chaikin studio a lot because my roommate was John Moore, who's Chaikin's co-writer for a year. Even TVs and movie. John Moore was his writing partner. And so I used to go over there a lot. And I remember talking to Howard, and I was like, okay, they want me to do finishes over Superman's. What are finishes? I didn't know. He goes, well, you finished up the book. And I go, well, I got that far. But what else? He said, you get to finish it. Like whatever the look is going to be is dictated by you. Like you get to do anything you want. And I went, anything? And that, as an artist, you're just like, okay.
Well, your decisions, like it hit me. I think I was like 17 or whatever when I first had seen it. And then you had mentioned the other day that your career has been 35 years long. What were you doing before that? Because I don't have any recollection of your stuff before Jurgens on Superman.
I worked as an illustrator. So I would make that trek into Hollywood and LA, meet with art directors and just get rejected time and time again. And then I actually got an inroad with, they were called Bridge Publications, and Bridge Publications did all the L. Ron Hubbard novels.
Oh, sweet. Dianetics and all that.
Yeah. I think they were kind of separate entities at the time, at least. So I was doing a lot of novel illustrations for them, covers, interiors, things like that. Some of them were full on painted. Some of them were, just kind of pencil renderings and stuff like that. And then I actually got hired to do a comic book adaptation of Battlefield Earth, believe it or not.
That which ended up becoming a Travolta vehicle, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
The cool thing is they were very generous and they were very kind. And I remember they had Frank Frazetta in the office one day, and so they offered like a lot of the freelancers that would work for them to come by and just hang out. And there was like 3 or 4 of us, and we got to do one-on-one with Frank Frazetta. It was freaking amazing. And that's when I'll tell you, and everybody in the chat, this is what Frank told me. He said, because I was asking about pencils and inks, he said, pencil tight, ink loose. And I always
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. I always go the other way. I pencil loose and ink tight. That's great.
He said, make all your decisions, make it all exactly what you want, and then bust it up or loosen it up later. And I've always thought that as well. Like, because I'm kind of an uptight penciler. You're not, though. So.
Oh, I'm fully an uptight penciler. That's the thing. It's like, no, I am. Like, if someone else is inking me, I ink myself with a pencil. It's like this sort of like, you know.
Yeah.
But when I ink myself, I go a little crazy. But one of the things that has always drawn me to your work is the amount of energy. A few nights ago we took a look at some of the work you had done over Jim. You were guest inker on X-Men 269, where Rogue was in the Savage Land. And
candy stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and feeling like. And this is no slight to Scott, because Scott we know is no slouch. But I just remember feeling like suddenly Jim's stuff had a vibrancy and a life to it that it didn't have previously. And I feel like you do that with everybody. In fact, I don't even know if you've inked me. I think you inked me one time, maybe like on a cover. But I never got the love. Maybe one of these days. But no, I mean, like, when I go through the list and I think about like, okay, yeah, you inked Matsuda, that was at Extreme, but as a 100% fan, and when I say that, I'm talking like before I became a professional, quote unquote. There were things that you did that changed the game, like that Fantastic Four job you did with Arthur Adams. I don't know how many times I copied that cover of them flying down at you, you know, with Hulk with his foot at you and all that.
Great
I don't know how many times I copied that. And I've always been an Art Adams fan, but I think the word is sparkle and bounce. Your inks add a sparkle and bounce to everybody you work on, and your range shows when you're inking someone like Wills, who's very render heavy, and you're inking someone like Liefeld, who's very linear. Even the stuff you inked over him, those Jubilee pages, all of a sudden, like, bounce, you know? Can you tell us a little bit about how you transitioned from DC to Marvel and into the X Office?
Sure, but a little bit about the style. I got the ultimate compliment from J. Scott Campbell when I was working on Danger Girl with him. And he said, thank you. And I was like, for what? He said, the stuff you did over Art Adams was the main, like, kernel of an idea of what led to what he did with Alex Gardner, kind of bloop and that kind of those lines and stuff like that. And I just keep my head down. You know, like that thing you sent to me the other day, what was it, like 11,000 pages I've inked or whatever it was?
Yeah. No, you were number 12. You're the number 12 most prolific comic book inker in all of comics history.
Yeah, and I was like, that's all I do is I keep my head down. You know how it is. You keep your head down, you just draw. And we work in a vacuum. So I never know what's going on or who's being influenced or who's looking at your work. And so it's neat when people say those things because they don't have to. No. You know, they don't have to be that generous. And that's why, and you're going to find too, like YouTube, people will, you know, we get to talk to people now, you know, we get to break outside of our studio confines and hang out with people and interact. And man, it's a blessing.
Yeah, it is. Hey, I'm gonna ask Matt Yackey something really quick.
Okay.
Matt, do you want to run the OBS? So like if you see a comment and want to click on it, basically the way it works, like if you like see how John Davies is here. What's up, John Davies? How are you, man? If you click on show, boom, his comment shows up all big in the stream, right? And then you click on it to hide. So if you want to take this, you come sit here.
Oh, I'm gonna sit on that chair right there.
No, you take over this computer.
I can.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna trade places with Mr. Yackey, and he's gonna he's going to be able to run the comments because I'm having such a good time talking with you, Art, that I apologize to the chat room, but I haven't been able to say hi or anything to anybody. So hello, everyone. And this is awesome. I love Art's cable work. Mike Green. And that is a full-on legit opinion right there. Mike Green knows his stuff. Your cable stuff was really cool, man. Like it was at least a surprise to me, especially when coming in as such my entry, like I said, my entry point with you was Jurgen's stuff. And I always noticed that anybody you touched, you hooked up. I think like Scott Williams had that same thing going on. Terry Austin has that thing going on. There are certain guys, like as a penciler, you go, God, I hope one day I get to getting by that guy, you know. And you definitely are in that I mean the upper pantheon of all time guys. I mean Giordano's up there, you know.
Yeah, I love his work.
Yeah, he's up there. So what was your first comic pencil job?
I actually got work as a penciler and an inker on the same day. So I started penciling Warlord at DC Comics and started inking the Star line of books at Marvel, the Kid line.
Yeah.
And I was doing the Inhumanoids. I was inking Jose Delbo on Inhumanoids.
Yeah.
And I was penciling Warlord, and I believe Pablo Marcos was inking me on Warlord.
How were you able to do that much work at the same time? Because penciling is a lot of work, and inking can be a lot of work as well. Were you just not sleeping?
Oh, I don't know how I did that. I look back and the books that I'm best known for, I inked all in the same month. So I was doing finishes on Dan Jurgens through the whole wedding, proposal and all that stuff with Lois and Clark. I was inking Uncanny with Jim Lee, and then I was doing the Art Adams stuff, working with Walter and Art Adams. So I was doing those 3 books a month.
How the heck? You're a machine, man. And the thing is like I have them here on my spinner rack. Like I can within arm's reach. Like this is a famous, iconic. That is like so iconic. There's another one too that I have up there. I even have the Fantastic Four one up there, but yeah, I have Xerox copies of a lot of these pencils and inks. I don't even know how I got them, but I have them. And one of these days,
make copies of everything. So
that might be where I got it. I might have got them from you.
Remember the day we were all like Xerox pirates? Like we would go over to studios, and then because every studio had a Xerox machine. So we'd go, is it okay if I make copies? And we would just like, we walk out of somebody's studio with 50 copies. Remember Mark Pasilla?
Yes, of course.
He walked out of Mike Mignola's studio with just a stack of pages.
I believe it. I have photocopies of Cosmic Odyssey. Of pencils. Got them. The way I got them was Mike Carlin was Rob's editor on Hawk and Dove, and Mike was like, check this out, and he sent him like this packet of Xeroxes, and Rob one day was like cleaning his garage out and threw them in the dumpster, and I was like, hey, before they even hit the ground, I had them in my hand. I was like, yo, you don't want these? He's like, no, I've had my time with them. I'm like, I have not.
They are mine now.
Yeah, they're mine now. I also want to hear a little bit about Black and White. And one of the things that we share a little bit of, there it is. We share a little bit of common ground, not only our time at Extreme, but we had done our books, Black Flag and Black and White, around the same time. Look at that. What is that? Is that an ash can?
Yeah, it's the ash can. And you'll recognize the interiors. This is the Extreme Studios.
Yes.
Remember the backups that were in all
Oh
the
yeah,
titles? Yeah.
that's right. That's exactly right. And because I was going through some of the Black Flag library. Is that a trading card?
Yeah.
Is that all stuff that came with your campaign?
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a way that people, if they weren't able to get it uh, at the time, is there a way for them to get it now?
Not right now, but I've been talking to Ethan Van Sciver, and he's like,
Mm,
you got to bring that stuff back. And
yeah,
in the chat and private message, people are asking for me to bring it back. So I may do a limited like Indiegogo and
yeah,
just like put a new cover on it and
yeah.
and then reissue it like a second printing kind of thing.
Yeah, I was talking regarding this, and this is a little bit of tech talk. So any of like I've said to people before, my channel is dedicated to creators, whether you're a writer, a pencil person, a paint person, an ink person, a music person. The idea is creativity and getting things out there to man. Now you got all sexy. What is that? Your icon's beautiful. Uh, uh, I need one of those, man. Uh, uh, but the thing that I also try to do is like talk about resources. Like the other day on my channel, um, I show my development process, and as I work on Black Flag, uh, uh, when I work on Black Flag, and I'm doing it because I'm working on He-Man right now for DC. I'm also storyboarding Doom Patrol on a show called Legacies for CW. So things get busy. So I realized, like, oh, hey, you know what? My stream time is a good time to be able to get that work done, but also show people. So one of the things I do is show them my full process. I show them how I go on Pinterest and how Pinterest works and how I use dual monitors. But in giving information, I know in LA there's a printing place. I don't know what it's called, but the guy on Facebook, look at that, trying to score a Black Flag pin. I'll tell you guys how to get a Black Flag pin. And Jason, the reason Jason Bascom got one is because that very day I said, you guys, I need suggestions, please. I said, don't, I'll be lazy, etc., but leave a comment in the comment section. And out of the 180 people that watched that day, only one person left a comment, and he gets a button.
Well, a year from now,
Yeah.
a year
Yeah,
from
yeah.
now, and you won't be able to do that because you'll have thousands of people.
Right, right. Well, no, see, that's not the way to get it now. The way to get it now is I want people to this time around is to go on other people's streams and just type the words just Fragaboom exclamation point and then get a screenshot of it. If you do that 3 times and send me the screenshots and your address, you get a button.
Guess what I'm doing tomorrow?
That's right. You're Fragabooming everywhere. But no, what
Time.
I was gonna say is there's a guy on Facebook named Jacob Bear, right? And I'm gonna reach out to him and I'll send it to you too. He's a guy in LA. It's a guy that I know a lot of LA guys use, where they if they have a comic, right? And I only know this because, like, you know how the universe sometimes works in a way where you're thinking about something and then like 5 versions of the answer hit you unrelated.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I've been looking for printers and looking for other things, and between talking to this guy named Labworks on Twitter, talking to Rob Liefeld, talking to Marat, talking to this guy named Jacob Bear online, they were all telling me about this printing place, and it all turns out that it's the exact same place. You know what I'm saying? So it's in LA, and like Marat uses them. He has that Do You Poo comic, and he's got like, I don't know, 40 covers on it. He basically sends it there, and they can do that for him. They can do like quick runs of new covers.
Those are like print on demand, right? Where they can do small print runs.
Yeah. And so, for example, if you said, hey, here's this campaign for this second print, But let's say you were going, let's just call it New York Comic Con because it just happened or whatever. Let's say you're going to New York Comic Con. You could make a run of 50. There's the black and white again. You can make a run of like 50 just for that show and do, pre-sales before the show, and then people can come and pick them up. It's an interesting thing, the landscape we're in right now. So one of the things I wanted to do with you is drop my iPad right there.
He's phone. He can't get up. Medic alert.
Oh no! I almost need that. My bones hurt when it gets cold now. When people say, "I know it's gonna rain," I can feel it in my bones. Now I understand. I always thought that was something old people said, but I'm not old and I say it. But no, I'm old and I say it. So
you're old-ish.
You're actually, even though Kim Jong-gi had the dubious honor of being the first person I interviewed, his interview hasn't aired yet because it was in Korean. It was translated on the spot, but the translator did it very third person and paraphrased. So I'm sending it to a company called Rev, which will actually I have to pay them per minute or whatever, but they have 99% accuracy and we'll put subtitles in. But you have the dubious honor of being the very first to appear on this show to answer these questions. So I'm gonna jump into them. It's a series of questions that I ask that are designed to get into the mind of creative people.
Okay.
And they're a lot of fun. Let me see what this says next. Except there we go. Let's jump right into them. So yeah, no, it's great. It's kind of like a hot seat, but it's more of like a creative brain drill. I mean, you're in good company. I interviewed Howard Chaykin, Mike Mignola, Neil Adams, Kim Jong-gi, Rob Liefeld, Dennis Cowan, Larry Hama. These are all interviews that I have ready and chambered to go on the show. But I'm telling you right now, you're our first. So people are going to get familiar with these questions because you're going to hear them asked a lot, but the answers are always going to be different. So let's jump into what I call meeting with masters, because I'm sitting here with Thibert, the master. Now, do you have a routine, and if so, what is it?
I used to have more of a routine when I was doing monthly books. So one of the key things is if you're doing monthlies is to have, some kind of system in place. So what really helped is when Amanda was born, because I used to just work whenever I wanted to and wasn't that disciplined. And then when she was born, I wanted set hours and I wanted to be home by dinner time. So that's when I set up the studio, and that's when I started keeping regular hours. So for me, it depends on what part of my career, I was in. But at the most disciplined was when I used to drive to, that studio you remember in Youre, Belinda. And I would pretty much work set hours, come home at a certain time, and then eat and hang out with the little one, and then kind of go back to work in the evening time. So that was kind of my ritual, waking up at a certain time and getting home at a certain time.
So wait, when you were undisciplined and only doing 3 pages a day, basically, did you notice a change in your output when you made it more regimented?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Because I believe too that the only way you can monitor your progress is to do the same thing every day. And don't lose faith that it's working or not working, because it's going to take time for it to pay off. But set a system up and then keep it work, for months and months. And then if it's not working after you've actually given time and energy, then maybe change your structure. But up to that point, you have to give it, your all and commit to it, because it does take time. And I believe if you do the same thing every day, you can improve, because you can see it. You can track the progress. You know what I mean? You can go, 3 days ago I couldn't do this. Today I can do this. That type of thing. And if you don't have that structure, you can't monitor it.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to take a brief second to say what up to Donald McPhee. I saw his comment pop up. He's a good friend from Orange County. There he is, finally able to watch the live show. That's one of my homies that I miss from in California. So it's good to see him in the stream. Our next question is one of those funny ones, but I think every artist has to deal with it. The question is, what do you do when you don't know what to do?
I never had that luxury.
Yeah.
I've never had the luxury. I used to always say, like, you're the defier of the blank page, right? You don't have time for writer's block. People that talk that way, I really believe, are people that have time to, indulge in writer's block. I never.
Right.
So the schedules are always what they are. So you sit down and you just barrel through it. And I found a lot of times when you do have a deadline pending, you make more organic and correct decisions than you would if you labored over them.
It's true.
Not always, but a lot of times, because you don't have time to second guess yourself. You're just kind of going with your gut.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. If you could trade lives with any person, living or dead, for one day, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. I have a pretty awesome life. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I really like my life. Who would I want to change? I think I'd want to be a rock star, but do I have to be a rock star forever, or just like one day?
One day you get to experience that life.
Oh, I would want to be Steven Tyler for one day.
In his younger days, or the one that?
Oh yeah, Aerosmith in the day. No, not now.
Yeah,
that's bad. Not that he's not putting out good work, but
yeah. Now, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
That's easy. Don't get hung up on the details. They're not going to matter. The most important thing is keep your friends, family close, treat them well, treat your fan base well, and just keep moving forward, and don't get too hung up on what people think or say, because ultimately all that matters at the end of the day is what you think and what you feel, about your work and yourself and your friends and family.
Sure. That is a good one. There's a question coming. What's this about Mark Millar and chronomechanics?
Oh man. Because what does he have? He has chrononauts. Is that it?
Oh, okay.
And if you look at their suits and everything, and it's a similar premise.
Yeah.
And so I do remember I was at a few cons, like when we were doing the Ultimate books, Mark and myself, we hung out quite a bit. And I know he knows of chronomechanics because as a creator, this, Dan, anybody who'll listen to your pitch, you're going to tell them, oh, Black Flag, that's the book I'm working on. Have you heard?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I believe me, I've had experiences where I've had to say, I wish I never told that person that thing. Todd McFarlane's Cygor, for example, is right out of my head, and he, anyway, that's a whole nother shebang. Let's go back into our questions, and these are good ones, and it's funny, like some people answer them right away. Mignola wanted to see the questions first and vetted them. He crossed out ones he didn't want to do. Neil Adams said, I don't care, just ask me anything. So this is one. What are you most self-conscious about?
What people think of my work, actually. Yeah.
All right.
You put it out there and you're just like, well, are people going to respond or not? Especially the creator-owned stuff, because it's way more personal.
Exactly.
Get really uptight about like chronomechanics or black and white, because it almost feels like if people don't like that, then they don't like you.
Right, because you're pulling so much of yourself out.
Yeah,
it becomes very vulnerable. What is the most childish or childlike thing that you still do?
Every day. People say that I'm an adult Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes. So I don't really I take certain things seriously, but most things, I'm very childlike with, and I don't mind saying that, to all your viewers and everybody, because I used to get defensive, like, oh no, I have to be cool, I have to be whatever. But now I'm like, I draw comic books. You know, I've been doing it for 35 years. Of course I'm childish. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
you know, if
And
you look
even
at the room, yeah.
yeah, Picasso had said something to the effect of it took me 8 years to learn how to paint like a master, but it's taken me a lifetime to think like a child. You
Yeah.
know, and there's a lot of value, to that. Now, I think I know the answer, but would you rather live in the country, the suburb, or the city, and why?
If I had my choice, I would live by the ocean, and I always did. When I was, as soon as I moved out from my parents' house, I lived in Huntington Beach. Then I lived in Manhattan Beach, Hermosa, and then a townhouse with my wife in Redondo. So I still yearn to
Yeah.
get back to the beach, but we're up in the hills right now. So I really like, you know, where we're at in the hills. Uh,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of thinking where you're at now, where you know you have great prices, you have land, you have trees. Like here, you could have a tree that's 50 years old and it's only going to be 10 feet tall. You know, if you have
Right.
a 50-foot tall tree where you live, or I mean, a 50-year-old tree, I mean, it's towering over your house. You know.
Yeah, it's true. One of the things that when we moved to Georgia, the one guy, our realtor that was showing us around, had said like the one thing that's kind of funny about California is California is essentially a desert that has been turned into like what it looks like. So it's you know, it's sort of been a transplanted thing, but like the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, is in Atlanta for a reason because this place is literally like a tropical jungle. And like you said, like the you know, but there's not a lot of disease and stuff here, but like I think they can study under the conditions. Hey, brains.
Well, you have mosquitoes, right? Like,
You know what's weird? The thing that I learned in the year that I've been here is that there are absolutely seasons here, and they almost hit like a switch. Like Halloween, the day of Halloween, it went from 70 to 35 like that, and now it's chilly. And in the summer, we have mosquitoes for like a month, and then they go away, and then the cicadas come out, and
right.
they're here for like a month, and then they go away. So it's interesting. I love it here. I don't I don't think I'll ever go back to California. I really enjoy it here. My kids like it. The wife likes it. Um, this is one of my more interesting questions, and it's because of the range of answers that I've gotten, and then also, even though there's been a range, I've interviewed 24 people. There was a common answer, and I want to see if you fall into this. If you could learn a new skill instantly, what would you want it to be?
I think I would want to sing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would want to be a singer. Yeah, I think it's always a secret because I've always played in bands and I still play music all the time. So
Yep.
I have a good enough voice to do backing vocals, but not
Sure.
lead vocals. Yeah. So I think it'd be cool to be a front man in a rock band.
That'd be cool.
The
Yeah,
Steven Tyler answer.
I'm not going to say what the most popular answer is on that one because I want people to see. Now, this is a question. This is a question that, like, I had some people go, "The hell is that question? I'm not answering that." And some really got into it. Okay. What element out of air, water, fire, and earth represents you the most?
I think water, just, water can erode, water can be powerful, but at the same time, it's liquid and it can move, around things. It can move through obstacles, but at the same time, if it keeps the course, it can actually be very strong and it can erode, it can make
Yeah.
impact. So I
It
think
could fill a teapot. It becomes the teapot.
exactly.
You smash against a rock, it goes wham. Be water, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
great,
like a
man.
finger pointing its way to the moon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all of the heavenly glory. Yeah. What was that question that you popped up, Matt? What is that? It was a It looked like a question from the boom room. What do you do to keep yourself motivated and interested in your work? That was a question from the chat room from Chauncey Blakely.
Well, Chauncey, it doesn't take much for me. I love comic books. So every day I wake up, it's like a new adventure. Even though I've been doing this for a long, long time, it never feels old to me. It never feels like something I don't want to do. So every day I wake up and I sit in front of the drawing board. It's like a dream come true for me.
That's awesome. Now, if money wasn't a factor, this is my favorite question because it's literally like a Tim Robbins question, right?
I
Like
think you know where you're going.
Yeah, if you had all your bills paid, your mortgage, you have no mortgage, your house is paid for, you have zero debt, your groceries show up every week. You're not multi-rich, but you literally have no worries in life. If money wasn't a factor, how would you live your life? What would you do with your life?
Okay, you're roboting a little bit there, but yeah.
You said I'm roboting?
To be honest,
What is roboting?
yeah, well, you're good now. But you were, where your voice goes, eat, like every other word
That's
or whatever.
how I talk, bro.
No, it ain't. I can tell it.
Do you mean?
Beep,
Yeah,
bop,
so
bop, boop,
if
bop.
money wasn't a factor, what would you do with your day? How would you live your life?
I would do exactly what I do now. Nothing would change, except I wouldn't work as many hours. Because
Right.
you know how this works. If you don't work, you don't get paid. And so there's no holidays, there's none of those things. So if you take a day off, you have to work, you have to put in basically 2 days worth of work in one day so you can take a day off. So I think I would do the same thing, but I would do it under less pressure.
That's great. That's a wonderful idea. Here's one of those zany meta questions, but it's sometimes they have great answers. Describe yourself with one word.
Childlike, is that one word?
It is. Great. What initially sparked your interest in doing what you do?
I remember my mom, I don't remember ever saying this, but my mom used to say, when you were really small, Art, you used to say you didn't want to grow up. And she always thought that was a really odd thing for a small child to say. And so I think I just continued in that vein, of not growing up. Yeah.
Now, for comics, what was the thing that you like? Like for me, I can give there are 4 major impacts where I basically went, oh, comics looks like would be fun. Then it was, oh shit, you can do that in comics.
Yeah.
Then it was, fuck you, I'm gonna draw comics. And then you know what I mean? Like there were these 4
stages, yeah.
And it was for me, it was seeing Frank Miller on Dark Knight. That was the big nuke. Oh my god! And Rick Leonardi on Cloak and Dagger.
That's the guy I was trying to think of the other day. Somebody asked me who would you want to eat. Rick Leonardi.
Oh my lord, dude! You gave me the. It's called a broner. It's like when a dude is rocked up over something another dude said.
Yeah.
I just got way broned up on that, dude. That Rick Leonardi. Yeah, I mean, because your stuff, it had the qualities of Terry Austin, but with the broken line. But you, like I said, you had that bounce, and Leonardi's stuff has bounce, and bounce on bounce. I think those pages would fly open.
Right, bounce on bounce, but also the structure, because I mean, Rick's stuff is great, but there's just this. It's just 1 or 2 steps away from being structured as much as maybe it should. So a lot of Dan Green and stuff they just go over the line. They don't structure it up. But I think naturally I do that, when I'm eating people. So I think I would bring a little bit more structure to it, and still at the same time I would still bring the bounce and that energy to it. So the guys I always thought would be a perfect kind of blend between the 2 styles.
Yeah, he's amazing. Some of the, I mean, obviously his fill-ins on the X-Men were great. uh, and his Cloak and Dagger was great. But one of my favorites was the Marvel Comics Presents the Forgotten Country. It was a Colossus story that
Remember that? Yeah.
oh, it was so good, so good. So what happened to you? Like where you were an illustrator, right? What made you want to draw? But then what made you go, no, comics is it?
I never pursued comics. I never did. I wanted to be an illustrator. I mean, my dream was really to illustrate album covers. You know, I liked a lot of those guys, and so that's what I wanted to do. But being out on my own early on, I needed to pay the rent. So
Sure.
I always went to school. I for the first 7 years, even though I was working professionally, I still took at least a life drawing class. And so
Sure.
2 times a week at night, you know what I mean, just to use the model. And so I was going to Rio Hondo College in Whittier, and I took an illustration class, and the teacher was like, you kind of draw, like even in life drawing, you're like, you draw very structured, like very idealized. Like all the figures, like for some reason, like all the models would come over and they'd go, that looks better than I look, you know, but it's they're still there, but it's kind of heightened. And then my teacher finally put it all together, and he was like, it's almost like that's like what a comic book artist or an illustrator would do. And I said, yeah. And then believe it or not, and I know you know who this is, Brian Murray. He said he knew Brian Murray. And so Brian was.
Wait, is this Marshall Vandriff? Who was your teacher?
Oh my gosh, I should know this guy's name because he was so pivotal. There's always like that one person in your life that you never see again that connects dots.
Right.
Oh my, it'll come to me. I don't remember his name, but that wasn't his name.
Okay, because I was going to say Brian Murray. I talk with Brian Murray even still. He's going to be on this show. I talk to him at least once a week. Like that is one of my all-time favorite people.
Yeah, he's a good
crazy guy.
Yeah. So he was working with Neil Adams Continuity Comics at the time, and I was a big Neil Adams fan, Dick Giordano, all that stuff. And so I just started hanging out with him, and he was like the whole Orange County connection, you know, with Jim Valentino and Rob Liefeld.
I was going to ask how you got hooked up with those guys.
Yeah, so then I moved out to Huntington Beach, and I think that most of those guys liked hanging out because I lived like, you know, a block from the Huntington Pier. So I liked hanging out at the beach house. So I know Rob and I, even before I think it was before he broke into the business professionally, he used to come over and we'd have those all night drawing sessions, you know, and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So it was Brian Murray that connected me with Jim Valentino, and then Jim Valentino needed an assistant on Normal Man, and then he was working on Myth Adventures. And so at that point he trusted me to ink him. And those were steady paychecks. But you know as well as I do, independent-wise, you'd get your upfront money, but sometimes you wouldn't get your back-end money. And so
that's correct.
Yeah, that didn't last very long. I think we did that for 6 or 8 months. And then I put a portfolio together and started working, leaning towards Marvel and DC to get a steady paycheck.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump back in our the formatted questions. Because again, like I said, I had probably about 100 questions that I stripped down into the ones that I feel like are the most essential. This is one of them. What are bad recommendations that you've heard in our profession?
Don't look at comic books. Have you had other artists that say, don't look at other comic books. Draw from life.
Right.
Really? There's a whole language that's in comic books that doesn't exist anywhere else. Really? I'm just going to look at life and then learn how to draw comic books? That's the biggest POS I've ever.
Yeah, I've always felt like it's got to be a hybrid, right? Like life will teach you kind of how things are built, but comics will really show you how to like just take them to their limits and make them the most exciting they can be. You know, that's a good one. Now,
you know who told me that?
Who was that?
Bill Sienkiewicz.
Really?
Talk about a hypocrite.
Right. Neil Adams, this like about a month ago, I saw and hung out with him in Connecticut at Terrificon, and I showed him my He-Man work, and I've known Neil since I was 15, so we're going on 31 years now. And he's never liked my stuff. Like, he's liked me, but he's never liked my stuff, and he always shreds me. And he was going through my He-Man stuff, and he's like, "This is not how a face works. This is not this. You need to take a photograph and trace it." And I said, "Dude, I'm not tracing a photograph." And he slammed my portfolio shut and pushed it back. And he's like, "I'm not even talking to you right now." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Every good artist traces." And I said, "What the fuck, dude?" Like, so yeah, that you get, like, to me, that's some crazy advice. Sure, if you're doing like some commercial work, I'll trace a car because they want their car to look like their car, and beauty work, I'll trace some things. But yeah, that was one of those things that I was just like, Neil's a funny guy. Now, how is a failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success? And do you have a favorite failure?
Wow, that's a heavy question. I think we can obviously learn from things that we've done wrong.
Sure.
So I think that would be the quick answer. Wow. I don't know. What would be yours? Can I ask you that question?
Yeah, sure. Because I'm going to interview myself one of these days. I have a green screen. I'm going to do it. But if I was asked, I would say my biggest failure is to recognize the blessing I had in being part of Image at such an early age, that had I known what would transpire, I would have just kept my head down and drawn like a machine.
Yeah.
And that's what I do now. I'm doing storyboards, and the way I handle my comic book stuff, I'm literally a machine. I come in here, I close my door, I put my head down, and I go.
Yeah.
But that's my answer. My failure is not recognizing the blessings when they're happening.
Yeah, I think after you said that, it was starting to come to mind where I guess there were roads that I could have gone down that I chose not to. But at this point in my life, I also look back and I can't say that it was something I would have changed or done a different way, because I could have inked Cyberforce.
Oh, wow.
Mark and I were like, we were LA Beach area, so we kind of hung out quite a bit, and so that thing just fell apart. But I probably could have pursued it, if I was active. And then even the Wildstorm move, Jim one day just kind of had me come down. He had the new offices. He goes, "Any office you want, any space you want, it's yours." And so he was always very, very generous. And so sometimes I entertain the thought, like, well, if I was part of Wildstorm in the early days, then I would have been a partner. So when Rob sold the studio, because I don't know if anybody not Rob, I'm sorry, when Jim sold the studio, he split it 3 ways. So it was Will, Scott, and him. So it would have been 4 ways.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, there we go. We learn. That's what we're here for. What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? It could be an investment of money. It could be time, energy. What in your life? What do you think is your most valuable investment?
My daughter.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she is so amazing. We just got back from we did a convention in Long Island, and so then we took a mini vacation and went into New York City for 2 days, and then we went over to Oyster Bay in Long Island for a day, and we just hung out. She's at the age now that we can be more friends than parent and child kind of thing, and so it turns out she's a blast. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah. So I think that there's that would happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, the answer doesn't have to be a comic book. It could be any kind of book. But what is the book or books you've given the most as a gift?
Oh my gosh. I usually don't give my books as gifts. Yeah, I don't think I've ever given one of my books as a gift.
Have there been any books that have influenced your life?
Oh, many. There's a lot of art books, the Andrew Loomis book, the Bridgman book. There's a guy, was it you that was talking about? Somebody was talking about this. Was it Jack Ham? Do you remember Jack Ham's anatomy?
Yeah, of course. He did. I love his animal book.
Yeah, the animal books are great.
Yeah.
And so I'd say they're mostly art books, like my Mobius art books,
Oh yeah.
my Barry Windsor Smith art books. So, and then story wise, I'm a big Philip K. Dick, so I would say like those are the novels that I read the most. And when I was younger, it was Jules Verne's, and then
Oh
Edgar
yeah.
Burroughs. Yeah.
Wasn't Philip K. Dick a Fullerton man? I heard he died in Fullerton.
I think he was either that or I'm mixing it up with Sid Mead, because I know Sid Mead's an Orange County guy, and he gets like thrown into that whole, Blade Runner, big thing.
Yeah, they definitely have crossover. Who would you consider your top, let's say, top 3 influences in your life? It could be a parent, it could be an artist, it could be a friend.
I had a good roommate, Daniel Morvik. So he was cool. My father, and I'm gonna say Jim Lee and Walter Simonson as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you ever inked, Walt?
Oh yeah. I was one of
Holy
the few
smokes.
people that got to ink some of his Fantastic Four run. And
Holy
I
smokes.
still have some pages too. I'm not going to.
Oh, I want to see him. No, I'm not saying to sell him, but I want to see him.
Yeah.
He won't. He's one of the guys that has all of his work. He won't sell it.
Yep.
And also Terry Austin has all of his pages that he got back.
That's crazy, man.
And he has no children and nobody to give them to when he dies.
No, it's not right.
I'll buy the house next door.
Remember your friend here. Walter did he did a review of Chrono Mechanics. I have somewhere.
That's awesome.
So he did a foreword in one of the Chrono Mechanics books that I put out.
That's got to be great. He is a definite legend.
Yeah.
This is my last question on the formatted questions, and it's one of those closers that you have to think about a little bit, but some people don't. Some people do. What would you like your legacy to be?
I think just he was a hardworking, honest man, that had fun. I think that's probably it, because I don't know any other way to do it. Some people are like, oh, you work so hard. I remember over at Extreme, like Pasilla would say, like Mark Pasilla would say, Art, you put everything into every page. He goes, they're not paying you enough. I said, it doesn't matter. I don't know how to do it any other way. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, how to do it faster or how to do it cheaper. When I see something that needs to be done or a way to enhance it, I'll spend the extra hour. I'll spend the extra whatever to do it. I just don't know how else to do it. Quite frankly.
Yeah, my biggest quest is how to speed up the process without losing quality. Like that's like one of my life quests, because I have so much inside me, and I get the word I use on my chat is I get impatient. Like I'll see something fully realized and be like, that's going to take an hour.
Yeah.
And be like, kind of like, come on, get it out.
Well, Dan, the older you get, the less patience you're going to have, because you're just going to go, because well, also the less willing you're going to go into a venture, because you're already going to analyze it, because you have that perspective. You're going to go, I know how many hours it's going to take me to do this. I know how much work it's going to take. I know how much family time I have to pull, from to do this, and all those things. So all those that checklist gets in your way when you get older. When you're younger, you just do it. You don't care, because you
reckless abandon.
Yeah, you didn't have no idea how much time it's going to take
Yeah.
you. But yeah.
What you've had in your 35-year career, you've had a lot of I use this word a lot on this stream, iconography. You have a lot of things that are iconic and have created iconography with a lot of the images that you've been part of. Is there a favorite or any favorites of yours? Not just like work experience, but like when you finished it up and you took time to look back on it, you're like, yeah, I did my thing. You know, is there anything out there that you hold as a personal favorite?
I like the first black and white cover, the 94 book. I redid it here. This is actually a reimagining of that. So I digitally re-inked it and kind of
Ah,
pictured it. So this is actually the original drawing that I just enhanced and got new colors for. So
yeah,
there's that. There's the first Chrono issue that I really like. And then there's a lot of X-Men stuff. So there's that one shot that I did with Jim Lee where Psylocke is walking out of the water and she's kind of got her hand. And there's all the reeds that are on the side of the lake bed there.
I know it. Those little Freudian phallic hey
I think
ladies.
what those things are called little wiener dogs. They look like
Yeah,
like
cat's tails.
yeah.
Cat's tails. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I still remember the story behind that because I was doing finishes on that, and Jim kept saying, "I think she's a little hippie. She's a little thigh. She's a little thick," and
Yeah.
so then I kept kind of repenciling it, and that's the time when we were fax. Remember fax machines?
Oh yeah.
I would Xerox it, and then I'd fax it out to him, and he'd go, "Little more, little more." So I remember that, and then it just became a really iconic, cover. And then I think the first Cable cover, that wraparound that I penciled and inked, that was pretty cool. And then, of course, the Wills X-Men cover, the one that you showed, the wraparound, the Uncanny cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
And
was?
then, wait, and then
Yeah.
of course, the Art Adams one, the Fantastic Four, when they're all leaping down.
Oh my gosh. It's on the top of my spinner rack right there. And I know that it's funny because you have brought up the fact that J. Scott Campbell had said, like, this was like a spark or like the beginning of the formula. And I know exactly the page. It's that low angle with Spider-Man with the big thighs looking kind of up. And you see Sue back there with her hand in her over her face. And I'm like, yeah, I know exactly the one. That was a cool job. Now, have there been any pencilers?
Can I back up for a minute?
Absolutely.
I remember showing Scott Williams that, and Scott was just shaking his head. He's like, "How is art letting you get away with this?" Because, it wasn't like anyone. It wasn't like Milgram or anybody else that has inked him before. He's like, "How is art letting you get away with this?" I go, "I don't know."
You know what? And I like Al. He's inked me one time, Milgram. There are certain guys out there that I think are fantastic journeymen, and they give you they don't plus it and they don't minus it. They just basically, like, the shitty word is trace it.
Yeah, that's a great way of referring to Al's work. Yeah, I love him. I think he is really competent, but there's no energy. There isn't that extra step there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said, I think a major contribution of yours is that you give them. It's almost like if somebody made a clay doll and you blew your magical air like this, and it suddenly stood up. It's like it's a liveliness. Yeah.
Well, I always have there been, how I worked with a lot of other inkers in the studio. I used to tell them, even when you're inking a straight line with a ruler, it doesn't have to be boring. You can break the line up. You can do a thick to thin with it. You can put some kind of inconsistency in the line. You can give it character. So every line I ink, I try to think that, give it some kind of character, give it some kind of life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's organic. I also use the word cartoony. The thing that a lot of people don't know is you brought up the role of a finisher. You know, I've done finishes over people in my career. I've done finishes over Rob. I've done finishes over a lot of guys at Extreme. And one of the things that I saw is how much of a contribution guys like you and Scott make. You know, like you were saying, Jim was saying, trim down the hips and trim down the hips. And I've seen stuff like there's that Wolverine issue. I forget, it's the one before the cap issue. It's I think 267 or 266 where Wolverine is tearing himself up and there's all those black pustules spraying everywhere. Let me see if I got it. I know I can pull it up. Yes, I do.
Omega.
In fact, I do have it. It's right here. It starts off with Logan sitting.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, but then when we get in, yeah, this.
That was Joe Rubenstein or something.
Oh, Scott Williams.
Okay.
This particular bit right here where he's like slashing himself, and all those black pustules are like popping all that evil out of him. I saw the pencils to this. I saw the pencils, and oh boy, you know, Scott made that a moment. You know what I mean? So, what is that? Kevlar saying, "My apologies in advance." What's going on with Kevlar?
Let's see here. I'll pop it up.
Hey, Kevlar is one of our regulars. He's a good dude. He tells it how it is. Knock on wood, stream hasn't been. Oh no, he said the words. He is playing with fire. My stream, and it's usually when I'm doing it on my iOS stuff. Did Art just drop out for a second? There he is.
No, he's there.
Okay, yeah. There's like a 40% chance that the stream goes down. It hasn't with StreamYard. Last night was a fantastic run. Leg Kick is in the house. He's coming out of Seattle, SeaTac area up in Washington. Are you cool with answering some questions from the chat room?
Oh, let's do this. I gave this my whole evening, so if you want to keep, I'm totally fine with this. I mean, awesome. It's so weird that you have to move all the way to Georgia for us to hang out, right?
I know, it's so weird. Oh, look at this. Leg Kick asks, is there any comic from the Indiegogo campaigns you would like to work on or collaborate with the creator on?
And there's
interesting.
Yeah, there's a
few. Excellent.
I never got to ink Ethan in a day. I know he puts a great line down on his own work, but
I've been inked by Ethan, but I've never inked him either. And I think if I inked him, like I'm one of those guys that when I ink somebody, it's like when McFarlane inked somebody. Like I just, you know, or when Kevin Nolan inks somebody, there's always going to be that sort of like stench, that Frega stench all over it, you know. But that's what I do. And sometimes some people like blue cheese and some people think it's gross, but I'm the blue cheese of inkers.
I like blue cheese. Have you ever had it on a hamburger?
Oh, hells yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I love it, dude. Some good funky Danish Roquefort, man. Just
get
it on there.
Just don't inhale it. Just just plug your nose and eat away.
Yeah, man. Are there any questions in the chat that you guys would like to ask Art or ask me? I wanted to jump in and because I wanted people to know about, because we shared time together at Extreme. St. Agar is the best blue cheese. Thank you, Nin Nolosi. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the Frega Boombox on the Couchdoodles Live. So Extreme, how did Extreme happen? Because I know you and Rob had history. And I know, I remember you and Dan Dan Panosian, the Urban Barbarian, as most know him nowadays. You guys came in around the same time. I mean, I know your office. I even have, if you check my YouTube channel, one of my oldest videos is a tour through Extreme Studios in 1994. Oh, so wow. It's like you could see a young Art, a young Dan, young everybody. What's up, Adelso? Adelso Corona. that have you seen his stuff?
Yeah, I mean that guy's making leaps and bounds every 3-4 months, man. That guy
Fire.
is an inker extraordinaire. Yeah,
Pure lit
the
fire.
drawing's really good too.
That's right. And I think that's what it takes. That's one of the things that I noticed. Guys like McFarlane, guys like Kevin Nolan, you, Scott Williams, Adelso. I find that the best guys that are inkers also know how to draw because they, you know.
I never look at. I was asked this question on my stream. I don't really look at inkers. I look at pencilers. So I look at style.
Yeah.
There's certain inkers that bring things to it, but I mostly look at style. You know,
Yeah.
what a
Yeah.
penciler is doing. Yeah.
So how did Extreme happen for you?
I was doing cable. I was still living in Redondo Beach, and so I had Trevor Scott, brilliant inker, and I had Danny Mickey, and they were working as my assistants.
Yeah.
And there's a should have, would have, could have. If I would have stayed the course with those guys, and instead of like really joining Image, but just being freelancers that would support Image Studios. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine how much product we would be doing? We'd be inking all of those guys, the three of us.
Yeah.
So what was happening is we were doing a lot of support for Jim and helping out Scott on a lot of backgrounds and stuff. So there was already that connection with Jim. And then I think Trevor somehow had like some family connection with Rob. But anyways, there was still always connection going on. And I think Rob and I, just because I was working on cable, had that going on. So you guys, I don't know if you were there, but they had like an earlier studio version. And I'm not sure if Jim Valentino was there at the time.
Yeah, no, I started my first time coming to Extreme was February of '92.
Okay.
And that's when it was over at the North Berry Street offices. If anybody knows Ed Piskor, he has a show called Cartoonist Kayfabe. He had come to Anaheim for WonderCon and wanted to see the Catella studio. And
Okay.
I called him up and I said, no, dude, I'm going to give you the full Extreme tour. And I took him to every single studio we had. So the one you're talking about, the one on North Berry Street next to the, like close to the fire station across the street from the shooting range.
It was in a strip mall or so, or like one of those office complexes.
Yeah, it was like an office complex and it had a side door and there's that little upstairs you could go to where all the transfers were happening. But it was Valentino, Brian Murray, Richard Horry was coming in and out, and Marat. Those were like the regulars. So yeah, that was when I came down, that was the first studio, and then Nutwood. Nutwood was the next one, the one across from Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah, that's what started shaping up of what Extreme Studios was going to be.
Yeah, and then in February of '93, we moved to what is the famous one, the one that was on TV and in the back of things, and that's the one you were at, the one that was at 2400 East Catella, next to the Anaheim Stadium.
Casting building, right?
The Disney Casting Building. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so I was always bopping in and out of those different office spaces and studios. Because I was friends with Rob and Jim. So I think it was just a natural progression, and also one of the main reasons I didn't stay with Silvestri's studio and I didn't go Wildstorm is because we had just bought this house, my wife and I, in Corona. Yeah. So it was like the location was always just kind of closer to what Extreme Studios was doing. And so I think it just kind of organically I don't even remember how it happened. It just seemed like it was a natural fit that I just would hang out there. Hey, you want an office? I don't really remember any formal like Rob Liefeld pitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just know that I was there one day and I had an office space and I was working on Extreme Studio books.
Yeah, no, I think hold on a second. I'm gonna check something right now because I realize something right now that there may be an Art Thibert Black Flag connection. My memory is actually dialing up an Art to Bear Black Flag memory, and
is this gonna hurt me? This feels like
this is actually amazing because it just clicked in right now because I have one of those visual brains that like it's almost like a Rolodex. It goes that, and then I went, oh my gosh, you've inked a Black Flag character before.
uh-oh.
Black Flag's first appearance, Extreme Zero.
Oh, on the cover, yeah.
And there's Sniper right there.
the
Rob
brain.
was the second. Yeah, Rob was the second person to ever draw that character, and you were the first, or the second inker to ever ink Sniper.
You know what?
Isn't that crazy?
Look at the production value on that cover. This is what, 93, 94?
This is 93. This is Kiko Taganashi of Ollie Optics.
That holds up
And
today. Like that's
it more than holds up. This is superior to 90% of the shit out there.
yeah.
And it's not even Photoshop. It was colored with a Cod Barrett with math. And there was no mouse, there was no making selections. He did it with math. He looked at an area and a coordinate and said this to this. That's why it was so cutty. But yeah, I mean,
way Steve Olaf and Oli Optics work, because that was the computer because he came from that school, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I mean that's a series of amazing color choices and something very unique. I mean that. Shoot. I mean, yeah, no joke.
Matt, I need to say something. Tell Matt to get in there.
Tell Matt.
Yeah.
Matt's running the board, man. Matt's running the board. But yeah, this is.
I gotta say something.
What do you got to say? Andre wants to say something. What do you want to say?
Just that Kiko not
only created an art. I mean,
There it
art
is.
style. Hey, art again. But he created. He took a tool, like Dan said, that was basically used to color phone books, and he fashioned it into an art form. To be honest, Steve Olaf did, but Kiko was color 0, and he, he was incredibly amazing with a limited tool. So the only thing I wanted to add to that is that, I suppose like inking or anything that makes artwork better, he took what was there and limited by what he had to work with, and yet he made it better. So that's all I wanted to say is that Kiko is not only an inspiration to me, as you are as well, and Dan, but he took a limited set of ability, but then created a whole art form just like Steve Olaf did, and it still does hold up, Anyways, I just wanted to add that. So.
Well, great. Now that I have you here, I can say it face to face. I think it's either one or two of the pieces that were in the original Ash Can. Well, they were the backup in the Extreme Studios books, but I believe you colored, and it was a snowstorm. Remember, like either like White's, I think she's riding the motorcycle or something like that. It was a splash page, and there's this snowstorm in the background, and it has this nice blur effects and things. I believe you colored it, either that or it was the first page, but there was still some snow effects.
Yeah. I wanted to bring it today, Art. I didn't. Yesterday's stream was like a beta test of this, and people were telling me to stop moving around because most of the art that I had originally from Extreme unfortunately got lost in a sale of a storage unit, which when I left California, my friend was in charge of it. And anyways, it's really sad. But some of the pieces, for whatever reason, were in a Hunter boot box, and I was just showing some of the. One of the things I colored for you was I think it was Comic Book Magazine first cover of, and I showed it yesterday. I mean, you could see the stream if you give a shit, but it's like this. That was an honor. I mean, you and Dan were one of the first things I did. Yeah, and it's just amazing that. And the colors, I have to say, the colors that you got to be redone on the remaster were amazingly amazing. It's like that guy took it up a whole notch. It makes me look just pathetically sad. But we were doing it for 90s, and it was better than some of the stuff that was out there. So, we were all still learning, and I am very proud of the stuff I did for you. But
there was a handful of top-notch guys over there, Andre, and you were definitely like top 3, top 4 guys. If I had my way, I would have used you for every single page, man.
Well, thank you. No, and the very first thing that I did for any of my color work, and I'm going to leave after this because my stupid earpiece keeps coming out and cutting out. But it was a Dan Pinotion Prophet piece, and Dan was both Dan and Dan Fraga were very, very complimentary about. But that one was the first piece. It was a pinup of a prophet, and luckily I got to do a super amount of prophet stuff for Dan. And you two guys, honestly, one of the best 2 people at Extreme. Super nice, super funny. None of the crazy competitive vibe going on over there. And so, like I said, I mean, I'm wearing this pink shirt because every time you guys would, I don't know if you remember, but you would come out and just kind of hang out in the color area, and you had this pink shirt. So when I saw this one, I was like, I got to get one because it reminds me of you, man. And I'm so glad you're on this interview with Dan, because I've just learned a whole bunch of things about you that even back in the day I didn't know. So thank you for doing this. I'm going to cut out.
Well, thank you. And for the record, it's a salmon color. It's not pink.
Well, you know what? My mom just FaceTimed me. Literally, I was doing this, and I was just like, oh, shit, my mom's FaceTiming me. She was like, oh, that's salmon. That's not pink. I'm like, it's pink. She's like, no, it's salmon. But anyways, you're absolutely right.
And you're a colorist.
I know. This is why I don't color anymore. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to leave it at that. All right. So it's very good to see you. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, see you. Man, that was fun.
That was hilarious. Oh man. Okay, what does this say? Max Santiago, do you both see yourselves creating full-on companies to compete with the current wave of companies, or are you guys more interested in creating imprints, collaborating with established companies? I actually have an answer for that. And Max, great question. I like your icon. I'm a cat man myself. I like dogs too, but cats always win. I see myself definitely creating a company. I don't. The part of your question I'm not in alignment with is where it says compete with current wave of companies. My only competition that I've ever had, especially in the last 10 years, is myself. And I found this old adage to be 100% true. And in fact, Dan Pinotion and I went a little back and forth on this, and I saw his point, and hopefully he saw mine. But I feel like comparison is the thief of joy. And a lot of times, if you spin your wheels trying to do someone else, you're not being truthful. My idea is I want my book, my initial books, to be enough of successes that I can open the doors and bring in other people and share the label with them, and bring those successes. Whether it's it's competition, or if other comic companies see it as competition, that's their business. But for me, I just want to make this. Let me rewind. I watched a bunch of Todd McFarlane videos. Peter Simeti's in the house. I watched a bunch of McFarlane videos today as I was working, and he said some things that I was like, yeah, that's why Todd McFarlane's my spirit animal. I think he's a funny guy, and I mean that in the best and worst ways. But he said the guy, when he was working, and what motivated him, and this is where I was like, you're my spirit animal, Todd, is the person I'm trying to get off is me.
Yeah.
I want to make something that I want to look at. I want to make a story that thrills me. And if I can entertain me, then I'm good, because I know my sensibilities are okay. And if I enjoy it, then there's a high likelihood that the people out there will like it too.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. Like with Chrono Mechanics and Black and White, just entertaining myself, writing a piece of dialogue, or drawing, a panel, or capturing a gesture. That brings me so much joy. I used to look outside of myself a lot, what people were doing and things like that. And you're definitely right that it it doesn't bring you happiness. It makes you angry and upset because you're always like, why am I not there? Why
Right.
is it not happening for me? And yeah, it's just not a good place to be. So just compete against yourself and have a good time. Like you said, entertain yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good advice.
Do you plan on expanding art? Like once Chrono Mechanics comes out, what's next? More black and white, more
Yeah,
Chrono
black and white.
Mechanics.
Yeah, Black and White Volume 2.
Yeah.
So the conclusion to the story, and
Awesome.
then I have another art book. If you let me show you. I have this. Hold on. I'm gonna do a follow up. I'm kind of working on putting it together now, and it's going to be my art book,
Oodles of Doodles.
Oodles of Doodles. So
Look at that.
I have a foreword from Kevin Nolan.
Oh shit.
And you can't see it very well, but this is a Nolan Thibert jam. So I drew a Batman headshot at some convention, and
Yeah.
we were sitting next to me. He goes, "Can I ink that up?" And he gave me the whole Kevin Nolan hookup. It doesn't look like my work anymore, but
It's
yeah,
a hybrid though. It's a beautiful hybrid.
yeah. So this is the art book. So I'm going to do a volume 2 as well. And then I want to do the Chrono Mechanics stuff is one and done. So it's not serialized. So they're just like 48-page adventures. So I have another one that I have basically blocked out as far as structure. So I would like to follow it with that. And then I have a couple other IPs that I would like to do. I took off from comics. Not very many people know this, for about 2 years. And I was just developing animation shows and things like that and putting pitches together. And I have a couple IPs from that I would like to dust off and then bring into comic book form.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
how there was a question from Chauncey Blakely that I want to get to, but I wanted to ask how one might procure your art book. Do you have to go to a convention to get it, or do you have a store? Do you have a?
These are sold out. Yeah.
Oh man.
I have a handful of books left. I may do a reprinting when I do the campaign. So I'll have volume 1, volume 2, kind of bundled together.
You should break a pool cue stick in 2 and hand it to people, and say, "I have one book. There are 2 of you," and then just watch it happen.
It out.
Yeah, watch it happen.
And tie their wrists together, right, so they can't get away from each other.
Yeah. Okay, here's Chauncey's question. He is the master question asker. What element of your work gives you the most personal satisfaction?
The creator-owned stuff right now, definitely. I'm sure it's the same way for you, Dan.
I want to get granular on this question. Yes, the creator-owned stuff is probably my most treasured and favorite. But then when it comes down to it, the manifestation of imagination for me, like imagining a scene and exploring a scene and all the variations it could be, and then deciding on that thing. That's my favorite part. I find execution sometimes, like the penciling process. Like I said, I get impatient. I find it to be a little laborious because I know what it's supposed to be, but now I have to make it so. But my favorite part is ideation. I think ideation and development.
You sound like a storyboard artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not so much the final drawing; it's the destination, it's the doing, it's all the options, it's all the And I love that stuff too, the exploration part of it. But I usually just have to make a decision, quickly because I got to get the book done.
Sure.
So you don't get to explore as many different facets that you would like to.
Yeah. Interesting. Does anybody else in the chat room have any questions for Art? Couchdoodles, have you ever worked with John Malin? I have not. I liked your icon. That's a nice Todd Spidey. But I've not worked with John Malin.
Color. I colored his first comic work, period, and his first Marvel work.
Yeah, Matt Yackey, who's in this very room. He's over there. Look at swivel over. There's Andre. There's Matt Yackey at the helm of the thing. He's eventually, when this show starts developing even further, we have other equipment. We have robotic tracking cameras. I know that sounds crazy, but we do. I can walk around a room and I can put a tracking mark on my face, and the camera will follow me. And then he can run the whole board. But Matt Yackey was saying that he colored Malin's first work and his first Marvel work. Leg Kick asks, what do you guys look for in colorists? You really don't hear a lot about them. Well, they're a bunch of bitches. Just kidding. I have two of the best in my office right now. I look for someone that complements the work, that doesn't I like salad dressing, but I always get salad dressing on the side, right? Because sometimes when restaurants do it, I go, fuck, I can't even taste the lettuce. I just taste whatever honey Dijon shit you rubbed on this thing. And I feel that way with colorists. I feel like color choices are the most important. The choice of colors, not necessarily the modeling. And I think things can be over modeled, but color choices are the most important for me. Someone like Bob Sharon or Petra Scottis or Joe Rosas, people that colored in the late 80s, early 90s, that were doing what they could with Doc Martin dyes and doing code call-outs. I appreciate that stuff more than a lot of the stuff I'm seeing today, because it's highly modeled bad choices.
Yeah,
So
and also
yeah.
what I think is lacking in a lot of the newer coloring is just storytelling, because everything that we do is storytelling. So when I ink,
Amen.
I'm trying to prioritize foreground, midground, background, but also trying to prioritize what the point of the panel is. So sometimes
Yes.
I'll emphasize something that breaks those rules just for impact and just so the reader can hone in on those things. And I think a good colorist can do the same thing. But just to agree with your point, that sometimes the newer guys are getting lost in all the bells and whistles, and they're forgetting some of the fundamentals about storytelling. And trying to wow you with some of these effects and things like that. And I'm not opposed to place and time, right? But I think
this is what I call the sweet spot.
Yeah, that cover is amazing.
This is the sweet spot. It's right now it's a $20 book. You know what my goal is? Is to turn this book into a $100 book.
Yeah.
And then
look at also the storytelling, the way that the hot spot is right in the middle, and then the other guys are kind of like it kind of goes against what you think you would do. But Thibert in the foreground is kind of in shadow. He's
backlit.
And you think, like, for a cover, you would never backlight, a figure. But
and with all of that salmon back there.
See, Andre, it's salmon, not pink.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know it.
Taupe. There's all kinds of other words for it. Mauve. I'm regurgitating my question. Do you think inkers should learn how to ink over loose pencils and fill in tighter with their own style? That's a interesting question. Art, you wanna handle that one?
I think there's a million different ways to handle situations. So it depends on my moods. Sometimes I like a loose penciler because then I can it almost like it gives me permission to do whatever I want, to interpret it and to kind of tighten it up and bring it together. But at the same time, I like people that maybe I don't have to think as much, and I really like their style. So I want to be very respectful to it and kind of follow it, not necessarily like trace it, but follow it as closely as I can to get that the integrity of what they were trying to put down, and make sure it's there.
Yeah, I prefer when I ink people. I like to I like one of the guys I've inked a bunch is Rob, and he has a way of putting 4 lines down. But when you ink him, And I'm not talking about his rendering. I'm talking mostly like contours and things. Oh, thanks. I have my thumb over my face. Thank you, Andre. Yes, it's Mr. Thumb Man. I should draw like a little guy here. Hey, how you doing, Thumb Man? I'm good. How you doing?
Put a little face on it.
Yeah. But I'm mostly talking like his contours, right? Like his contours, like on, let's say, like a leg will be 3 lines. There he is. That's my buddy Thumbo. Thumbo the Thumb Man.
You got to interview Thumbo now.
We should. We'll have a Thumbo comic. I'll pencil it. You ink it. You pencil it. I ink it. We'll just
Andre colors it.
Yeah,
No,
Andre colors it,
it's
and
not.
people, if they want to see if they like it or not, they just got to thumb through it, you know. So yeah, like with Rob, like when he does contours and things, sometimes there's 4 lines that represent it. So you have to pick in a way, like the ideal line, because the energy is there. And the thing I like about loose pencils is energy. But then, like you said, going back to that Frazetta thing, which is just still kind of knocking back and forth. Pencil tight, ink loose, pencil tight, bong, bong. That man, he's one of the guys, like the 2 guys I was scared to talk to. And like one of the things I pride myself on is I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. Like I walked up to Jack Kirby and asked him for his phone number when I was 16 and he gave it to me, or I cold called John Byrne and Mike Zeck by looking their names up in the phone book. Like I did that shit. But one time I saw Frazetta in San Diego and I went, I can't. Like I literally, like it, my body said, don't go there, like, and the other guy was Jean Girard Mobius. I saw him too.
I wish I would have got to. I had a story with that guy because remember he used to be a regular at the San Diego Comic Con.
Yes, he sure was.
I had every opportunity to go up and talk to him, but I never did.
Yeah, same here. I'd see him and I'd go, oh, he's heard it all. Like that's what was in my head. He's heard it all. I'm gonna say, oh my God, you're so fucking awesome. Like I'm gonna say it, and he's gonna go, yes, thank you, yes. And same with Frazetta, Leg Kick asks, have you ever inked over? Oh yeah. There it is. I've got all of them, man. Do you have the half?
I have a ton of stuff. I don't have all of it in front of me. A lot of it's on my bookshelf, but
Mobius one.
This is my inspiration for Chrono Mechanics. So Chrono Mechanics is kind of like Hanna-Barbera, like structured stuff, kind of cartoony, but with a Mobius kind of French, ink line over it. So.
That's why I say, when I see it, I say, oh wee. Yeah, Jean Girard's the man. He's great. But I think those are the 2 guys that I had fear of. And the only other person I think that I would have been that way is with Michael Jackson. If I had to like step to Michael Jackson, I'd be like, oh, hey, Mike. But I wouldn't. I would have been like, I can't talk to him.
Yeah.
But Frazetta, I mean, so were there any other kernels of awesomeness that he laid down?
I remember I asked him, remember that? I think it's when that guy, it's the painting where the guy's stabbing the spider.
Yes.
And, there's like one, I know it's supposed to be blood or something, but he always has, like Frank has like an unexpected piece of color. Like in all his paintings, there's like this weird thing that doesn't fit the, the palette or whatever. And I remember asking him about it, and he's just like, it's just unexpected. It's unexpected. So when
I like that.
When Thomas and I were doing this cover here together, Thomas is the Thomas Mason. You can't really
Tom Mason, yeah.
Kind of blown out, but it's over here.
That green.
Yeah, the green was this was my Frank Frazetta kind of ode, because I still remember that idea. Just like
I love that.
One unexpected, piece of color. And my daughter's a fine artist, and I tell her the same thing. I'm just like, do something just peculiar. And I have a theory, okay? This is, see if you're down with this, that almost everything that is kind of consumed and popular has one odd, like really, really strange aspect to it. Like Batman, has Robin and the bat poles, right?
Right.
Like Scooby-Doo has like Velma. Like, is it a boy? Is it a girl? Like, you were kind of confused when you watch it as a kid.
It's a flavor. It's a quirk.
Yeah, there's always like I think a lot of like even Michael Jackson has that. There's like this odd quality that you can't. It's not necessarily definable. But I think that those little ingredients are what makes people intrigued and pay attention. It's the odd things. It's not always like the things you do right or the things you execute perfectly. It's the unexpected and sometimes the weird or strange.
Yeah, the thing that's always kind of bugged me out about Frazetta is there's a lot of legend, right? Like for example, he would say things on the record of I never use reference, I never use photos, I just draw. But then in further deep diving into Frazetta, you can see like photos that he worked from and things that he was inspired by. So it's always interesting to get tidbits like that, because that like to me is super insightful, and that's not something you're going to find in Painting with Fire. It's not something you're going to find in any of the Spurlock books on Frazetta, because they're maintaining sort of this this legacy and legend. But the fact that you met him and were able to talk to him is pretty incredible. We had a question from Underground Comics, and he was asking any advice on how to get better at inking.
The best thing with any of these, like if you're going to play music or draw or ink, is just do it all the time. Like I also say, don't even get involved unless you enjoy it, because you have to dedicate so many hours before you become proficient at anything. And so if you don't enjoy it, then you're not going to appreciate the time that you have to put into it to get there. So I would say the main thing is to, one, enjoy it, and then just to do it constantly. And don't ink. This sounds bad, but don't ink your friends unless they're professional. Try to find professional pencils to work from, because it will elevate your inks. Because if you're inking over like an amateur or a friend, or even your own pencils, you will make the same mistakes as the penciler did, and so you won't be able to shine as an inker. So it works better if you are working with truly professional industry standard pencils. So I'd say try to get your hands on those and blue line those up.
One of the things I used to see guys like Norm and Danny do, I'm not sure if you did them, but I would see them do drills, right? Like where they would do it. They would take like basically the vocabulary. An extreme kind of had a vocabulary, the pullouts, the fades, the wiggles, the feathers. And like Norm, I would see Norm do like a series of like 50 thick to thins, just running a fade drill, and then like doing a circle, like contours on a circle that the light is here, and doing the heavy side. And they would just literally like a kung fu master doing katas, just run drills. That was something
fun. Yeah, I used when I was running the studio and teaching new. You just flip the board over and you just have fun. And the thing is, just vary pressure on the nib, see how it reacts. Just try a bunch of different movements, because one of the things is it's movement. And even though it's really small, sometimes it's very controlled. Hey, there's thummy. Sometimes it's very controlled. You still have to be expressive with that line. So don't only practice big, but practice small too. Get those quick little movements in there as well. So, just familiarize yourself with the tool and just practice.
The other piece of advice that I would give, and this is just from my personal experiences, is that you may hear something is like the go-to tool. Like I hear guys say the 102 Hunt's Crow Quill is like the cat's meow, or the 850 Gillot is where it's at, and I had shit luck with a 102, and when I found a 104, I was like, this is my baby. This is the one for me. and because we all have different sort of like how heavy your hand is and all that. And what I describe to people, because I like putting myself through the paces, is I liken it to new relationships, right? Like if I get a brush pen and I go, I want you to do this. And the brush pen says, no, I do this when you do this. And you go, oh, you do this. And then you go, okay, you mean like this. And then suddenly it's almost like a calibration happens where you go, I think mastery is I always say, thy will be done. True mastery is, I think it comes out, my will is being executed as I see it. That's mastery. And a lot of tools take a little bit of time, but I would say another tip for getting better at inking is to find the tool for you. So your favorite inker may use a Winsor Newton Series 7 number 3, and in your hands you're like, how the fuck do they get that line? But if you use the Pentel pocket brush, you might get that same thing that you like, but you're not going to know it until you try it.
Yeah, try a lot of different things on. And also, just as an inker, sometimes you might bop back and forth between those tools as well. To
Yeah.
get the desired effect. So you might use a brush pen, and then you might use a marker like a micron, and then you might use, a 102, Hunt. It just depends.
You're giving away my secrets, man. That's my secret. I call it symphonic inking. I have like a whole band of tools. There's not one that does the whole page. It's like
Well,
five.
I used to do it a lot more. What I used to do is I used to ink all my organics and all hair with a brush, just as a standard rule, because those are always more spontaneous and organic. And you can kind of move a brush in a way that you can get organics, I think, better than you can with a quill. It just depends on the look as well. But with a brush will tend to dry out. So sometimes it'll go into a dry brush, effect. And there's things that you can't predict with a brush the way you can kind of with a quill. And so I always liked that, where you just kind of, especially if it's like long, like a woman with long black hair, you can just get those big sweeps with the brush. And I always liked that. Since then, you work with a lot of different people, different styles and things like that. So I stopped bopping back and forth as much. And, the older I got, the more I just wanted dip my pen in and just ink. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be, burdened with, because I used to mix inks. There's that whole like, oh, I'm going to use some, rapidograph ink with Higgins, what was it, T100 or what?
Yeah, people were trying to find the magic juice, dude.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
It doesn't exist. So I found like the best is just right out of the bottle, just Pelican ink, just open the well to start using it. Just start adding to it as you need, to keep it flowing. And it's probably the most painless brand I've ever worked with, because right out of the bottle, it will do just about everything I need it to do with the brush. Yeah.
I feel that way about Talons. I used to feel that way about the Kuretake manga ink, except that I found that it was drying in the nib quicker than I wanted it to, and I was picking the goop out more time than I was on the page. So I had to find something that was a little less quick drying.
But that looks really good on the board. Like, it looks beautiful, but yeah, I don't like that stuff. It dries up too quickly.
Yeah, one of my secrets that I have, people see some of my originals and they go, "There's not a stick of whiteout on this entire thing. How did you do that?" And my secret is with an X-Acto knife. Because if you use a certain kind of ink, you can actually kind of pull it up and off, as opposed to chip it off. Yeah. Somebody had a question. Here it is. Nathaniel Rhodes, to both of you. When you're creating creator-owned stuff, how much of your story have you figured out before you start drawing? That, for me, entirely depends on the project. Like the grave, when I did the grave and I was doing a panel a day for a year, I had my beginning, middle, and an end, and all the connective tissue kind of happened as I went. But with something like Black Flag, I have it completely written out. I need to know. I need to know what's happening and where I'm going. So I would say, especially if you're new, uh, unless you have like a great mental capacity to hold the whole thing. What's up, buddy? What am I missing?
Art.
Are you there, Art?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I just want to hear what he has to say.
Oh, okay. Well, I was answering the question. Art's
All
okay.
right.
It said to both of you.
I know.
Andre's always see these guys are here to roast me. Your mom told you not to burn trash, and here you are burning me up, bro.
I want to hear what Art.
Yeah. How about you, Art?
Yeah, I'm kind of like Keith Giffen though. I'm fairly dyslexic, so like words sometimes on a page have absolutely no meaning, and I don't know when it's going to happen. Like, and it's very laborsome for me to do that. So in a lot of the early days, I just laid things out like Keith Giffen does. It takes a lot longer, but since then, I try to work with, this is going to sound weird. I try to work with words every day. So I don't lose, because if I go days or whatever, then it's like a stranger to me. I don't even recognize the words. It's a really strange thing, but it's a reality. And so what I did with like the first chrono, I actually like it. I've gotten a lot of reviews, even when Walter Simonson gave me his little write-up on it. He was like, it's very confusing, but all the reviews I got on that first chrono, they also realized where it came from. They compared it to Mobius's Airtight Garage, and that story was it was random. He just was making it up as he went along. So with Chrono Mechanics, the first volume, or the first story I ever did, had kind of a beginning, middle, and end, just a loose structure. But then I just drew to fill in the gap. And so what happened is, the reviews would come in and go, well, this is pretty strange stuff. A lot of non sequiturs, a lot of odd things. And that's why. So then I started realizing I needed to structure things up in a way that made more sense. And I needed to develop these characters more on paper, because you can make a lot more mistakes when you're writing something than you can when you're drawing, because you get kind of, you fall in love with some of the visuals that you do and some of the layouts. So sometimes it would just be, I knew it wasn't right for the story, but I'd go, this sequence is awesome. You know what I mean? This fight scene, or the way the way it's laid out, I really want to use this. But if I was writing it, I wouldn't fall in love with it the same way. So I'd be willing to change it and to rewrite it, because it would only take me it'd take me longer because of the dyslexia. But you know what I mean? I could change it quicker than I could draw it. So I'd say early on, I laid everything out in actual, do you remember when we used to have the layout paper? We used to make those Xeroxes, and it would be four like page sizes on one sheet, or we would just have two on one sheet. And so you would just do your thumbnails on those things, so you could actually see how the pages butt together and how the story was coming around.
That's how I do it. I lay out my whole issue. I literally will lay out the whole issue. I put page 1 in the upper left corner, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so I can see the flow and, like you said, how they butt up. There was a question asking about, as an artist in creating comic books, do you take classes in writing, or do writers you work with teach you? How about you, Art? Because I have an answer for that.
What I still have to do is I have to work with writers. So I've always worked with my wife, who's an exceptional writer. She wrote policies and procedures for Northrop, the aerospace company. So you don't mess around with those. You're writing manuals, tech manuals, things like that. So as far as making sure all your commas and periods and everything, all your conjunctions work out, she knows all that stuff. Like, she's a book. So we usually write back and forth, And so then I've been writing pitches, animation and TV pitches, and working on movie scripts. So I usually work with, and even on Black and White, I worked with Taylor Grasso. So I work with somebody else, but I always bring Pamela in as an editor or as a co-writer on the project, because she just sees things that none of us can. And also it's good to have a third, a fresh set of eyes to read your work as well.
Yeah, for me, the way I learned, because my earlier stuff, I would say that my 5.5 years at Mattel was like a college course where I got paid to take them. Here's a Fortune 500 company that has major icons like Barbie and Hot Wheels and and Monster High, and they're asking for my team and me to come up with the ideas on how to make these toys sell with story, right? So we went through some industrial strength ideation processes where we're making sure that the fire is sparked and flamed, and that the audience is carried all the way to the end with a degree of satisfaction. So most of my education, at least for the stuff I'm doing now, has come from my time at Mattel.
Yeah, and I think as far as learning, I've never had any formal classes, but just reading books and just doing it and hanging out with actual writers. When I was writing the script with Matt, I learned a lot just about structure, how to structure up scripts, how to write. What do they call those? Where you just kind of do a breakdown of the story,
The outline.
Yeah, an outline and all that, and it becomes beneficial. Also, one thing about like his script writing, he would say is structure up, like, because there's a Chrono Mechanics screenplay that exists, and he said, well, structure this up as a disaster film, and it didn't even like I couldn't even comprehend it. And then as we started talking, he started explaining to me, he was like, the 3-actor structure of a disaster film fits this perfectly. So this is the stuff that writers know, and then so we wrote to that structure where I just kind of feel like I'm reinventing the wheel all the time when I'm writing.
Right.
I don't know these things, so
they're like templates.
I like working with people.
Tried and true templates.
Yeah.
That question that popped up today, what inker of the past gave you the most advice to help you? I would say for me, it's Art Thibert. He just dropped some nuggets today that I'm gonna take with me. How about you, Art?
What's the question again? I'm sorry. What
inker of the past is giving you the most advice to help you?
It was probably Frazetta. Just pencil tight, ink loose. I'm trying to think of other things. I want to give somebody credit for don't think ink, but I think I came up with that.
That's great.
Yeah, the time to think when you're inking is not while you're doing it. The time to think is before you do it. Because check this out. It took me years to figure this out, Dan, and I'll share it with you and everybody in your chat. As I used to think penciling and inking were the same thing. Like it's all art, right? Or even like writing, it's all the same, but it's not. Inking is a unique beast unto itself. Writing is a process. Penciling is a process. Inking is a performance. You know what I mean? Inking is you're in the moment. You don't get time to do 2 or 3 drafts. You get one shot. So you got to be in the moment. So it's kind of like, you rehearse for a play, right? You rehearse with your cast and you memorize all your lines and you do all those things. And then, when it's performance time, right? You have your crowd in and everything. Whatever you do, whatever mistakes you make live, whatever notes you can't hit, whatever lines you drop, whatever happens in that moment becomes part of the performance.
That's the thing, yeah.
It is the performance. Inking is performance art. It's being in the moment. It's inking. All good inkers, you get one shot. And the reason you don't want to try multiple shots is it'll kill the line. You want that line to move. You want that to have the energy. So if you have to go and rebuild it, you have to white it out, or you have to do all that kind of stuff, then that's not a performance. You want to throw that line down. You want that thing to be what it's going to be at that moment in time. So right or wrong, that is the performance. And so it's completely different than penciling. Penciling, you draw it 2, 3, 4 times, before you get the shot you want, or the pose, or whatever the storytelling is. Writing is the same thing. It's writing, crumbling it up, throwing away, writing more, crumbling it up, throwing away. Inking is not that way. So it almost took me my entire career to figure that one out.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How much sleep does one need to break in the comic book world? Jason, that is a lot.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it's how much sleep do you lose once you've broken into the comic book world?
Yeah.
That is a more apt thing. My average sleep, and I have a little bit of a unique situation having an 8-month-old, but as the crow flies, if you did a straight line, my sleep is about 5.5 hours. But the fact that I have a baby that cries, it's 5.5 hours that are broken up into many parts. And anyhow, and deadlines are deadlines. Like Art was saying. Boom! Look at that.
Thank you.
Mechanics. Yeah, there we are. And Matt, you're an admin, right? Is there a way of getting Art's link and popping it in there?
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, if you see that separate window over there, if you scroll to the top, or wherever the address window is, see the address window, do a copy, and then just paste it into the comments.
Hey, Matt, I just sent it to you. It's in the private chat.
It's in the chat. It's Apple C. Command C. He's a PC guy, so he's like, "What the hell is this shit?" Yeah, it's the Command C. It looks like a weird symbol. Here, I'm gonna go over to the captain's chair.
Well, I appreciate the shout out. Yeah.
Out of one of these.
Huh?
In a minute.
What's that?
Can I plug in for audio?
What do you mean plug in for audio?
If I plug in some earphones.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Because my phone is going to die here shortly.
Don't die, phone.
I know.
Please don't die.
There we go. It should be in the chat right now. There it is.
There we go. Cool.
Check that out, gang.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem, man. And seriously, thank you for coming on. Like you said, I had to move all the way to Georgia to have a hangout. But it's been awesome. It's been edutainment. Edutainment is something I'm very fond of. When people can be entertained and learn something new. I certainly did. And I'm just so thrilled to have you. I'm excited for your projects. I'm excited for the future stuff. I'm probably going to beg you to ink something over me at some point. Probably something Black Flag or future project related. And I can't talk about it, the future stuff other than Black Flag. But I'm stoked. I like your guys back there. What's back there? Is that the Yellow Kid? Are those Yellow Kid awards? What are those back there behind you?
Oh, those are Wizard awards, and I think the other one's the Inkwell.
It's the Yellow Kid, though, right? Like that French comic, The Yellow Kid.
No, I think it's a kid. I don't think so. It's a kid.
Oh, okay.
Book. It's got a comic book rolled up in the back pocket there.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. Jason says he enjoyed the stream. So did I. This has been a lot of fun. And Slick Rick, Lottie Dottie, he likes to party. Good stream, he says. Another great stream from Rooster Puncher. You guys, if you guys are big fans, Rooster Puncher's book comes out here. What day is that it comes out, Rooster Puncher? Voidwalker is coming out. I actually have an advanced copy. I was lucky enough to get a copy of Voidwalker, and I said on YouTube today for people to go and get it. I'm trying to find on my spinner rack. It should be on the top up here. Oh, Voidwalker, where is thou? But go get it. You need to go get Voidwalker from Alterna and Rooster Puncher. It's Mr. Spencer Desmond. Hopefully I'm saying it right. I always jack up last names. You were Thibert for the longest time, Art.
I still am in some places.
Yeah, man. I'm so glad you put the Thibert on the stuff back in the day. I'm like, who's Thibert? He inks like Art Thibert. You know? Like, you know how kids could be idiots. You know, Mark Silvestri was Mark Silverstreet, Liefeld, McFarlane.
Yeah, the hardest one is Bill Sienkiewicz.
Oh yeah, Sienkiewicz.
Sienkiewicz.
Yeah. Or that Neil Adams guy, man.
Hey Dan, we got to do this again because
For sure.
I don't know if you remember, but we met before you broke into comics.
Did we really?
Yeah, San Francisco, the Cow Palace. But we'll tell that at another
Oh
time.
my gosh, dude, that was the convention that Bern Hogarth was at.
Yes. There were a
Yes.
bunch of people there. There was because I think I took the shuttle over with Bern Hogarth and Johnny Romita Jr. But
Yes.
Jim was there and Art Adams too.
Yeah, that was the convention that I got completely mortified at because I had worked up a bunch of samples and I showed them to Bern Hogarth and he had a Sharpie in his hand and he started drawing over my originals.
No way.
Yeah, he goes, no, kid, it needs to be like this. And I'm like, "Arr!" Because I still had like 100 people to show them to.
I had an art teacher that did that once, only once.
One time, once.
Like, I don't care how you feel. I know you're trying to help me here, but
Yeah.
draw.
We met at the Cow Palace. That's crazy, dude. I thought the first time I met you was at Extreme.
No, we met.
That's nuts,
at the
man.
Cow Palace because well, I don't want to tell the story because I know you want to go, but we'll.
No, I want to hear this. I'll give this an extra pinch, dude, because I'm like, that was 1990.
Are you sure you want to hear it?
Yeah, hit me.
Okay. You were there with a friend, and I believe you came up. I did a doodle in your sketchbook, and the reason I know that you were at the Cow Palace is because you shared the story at Extreme because you were showing your sketchbook, and I think there was more than one drawing that I had done in the sketchbook, but they all looked like they were probably from the same time. And then you said, oh yeah, I met you at the Cow Palace. You did this drawing, and then I'm thumbing through all your other like wonderful sketches. I go, here's another one by me. Here's another one. I think you said you kept coming through the line because you wanted to. I don't remember the story, but it was something like that.
That's bizarre, man. Do you remember what year that was? Because I'm thinking, because I remember the samples I was showing was a Nomad story that Fabian Nicieza had written, and it was after '89, so it was like 90, possibly 91, but 91 is roughly when I broke in, like late 91. So I'm thinking it had to be 89, 90.
Yeah, early 90s. I'm trying to think of what I was working on because I think it was, because I was still really tight with Art Adams. And believe it or not, I had Art Adams artwork I was selling at that show. And
Holy smokes.
I had Jim Lee artwork as well. So it had to have bbeen about that time that I was working because I did a lot of annual, like X-Men annual stuff with Art Adams.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hold on a second. Let me pull up. Here's this, but Art had inked this. Here's the thing. Art inked that cover.
Yeah.
But the one, dude, like I gotta pull it up because I think it's in the back. It's the where did they put the covers? I don't know if they featured here. They didn't do it justice. They did these sort of small deals, but it was this one.
Yeah.
That's why, you know what? That must have been right after you guys had done that, because if I went in line and talked to you like a bunch of times and got you to do several head sketches or whatever, then that would have been if that was this was 90, then that's when it was. I was probably just like, you're the guy who did that.
Well,
And
Al,
it was
I didn't remember you until you told me the story, and then I was like, "Oh, I remember that guy," because you were with a friend,
yeah.
and you guys hung out, and we had a great time. I remember you were funny, and your friend, I think, was rather quiet. I don't think he did a lot of talking.
Yeah.
But that was a really interesting con because I believe the Cow Palace. It really is a cow palace. That place.
Oh yeah.
Like poop. Like
yeah, you know, it's by what up, Jiminy Cricket? Mike S. Miller sent you. What up? Tell Mr. Blacklist Universe we said hola.
my
Yeah,
thought-
dude. Yeah, the thing I remember about the Cow Palace, because I went there as a fan once, and then in '96 I did a show there once, and
cool.
and I remember it was a sort of close to Candlestick, like you have to drive past Candlestick to get to it. I guess Candlestick's not even around anymore, where the Giants used to play.
Candlestick, yeah.
Yeah, that's so crazy, man. Like, you know how your brain, like, I'm no spring chicken anymore. So there's this movie called Sleepwalkers. It's based on a Stephen King book. And there's this whole thing where they're inside a man's memories, and it's like this attic, you know. And as he's trying to carry more memories, it shows him throwing shit out, you know, throwing shit out. And I'm like, yo, some of the time, like people will tell me a story, and I'm like, this is news to me. They're like, here's a picture of you standing here, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. You know, like there was what's his name, Georges Janty.
Yeah, I like George's.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And we did free comic book day this year over at Cliff Bigger's place here in Marietta, Georgia, called Dr. Knows. It's the home base for Comic Shop News. And I'm sitting next to Georges. I'm like, hey, man, nice to meet you. And he's like, and we, you know, about an hour in, he goes, you know, this isn't the first time we've met. And I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, it was 1996. It was an Everett Hartsoe party. And Carmen Electra was there. I was like, dude, I don't remember anything about that party except for Carmen Electra. And then there were pictures, and he's like, there we are in the same room and everything. And it's like, oh shit, you know? It's just weird how our brains work.
Don't you look back and wish that you would have had a cell phone back then? Because I don't
all the time.
Yeah, I don't have pictures of anything.
All
like
the time.
all those great moments and stuff like that. It's all up in my head. I don't have any.
Yeah.
I don't have any photos of us even at Extreme Studio.
I have some, and I have that video, you know, which we used as a promo for San Diego Comic-Con. So there's that. I have a few photos because I had a lot of the Instamatics, you know, that you can get. But yeah, I try to explain that to my kids. You know, my kids, their age range is 15 to 8 months. There's 4 of them, and I said to my daughter, who's 8, I'm like, yeah, we could do like an animated film flip book on the pictures from your first year. You know, like I was born in the early 70s, and I could count on less than. I can't even count on all 10 fingers how many photographs I have of me before I was 6.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And any photos from the 90s or whatever, it's like they're, like you said, they're super rare. And it's like, man, I really wish I had the foresight to take more pictures. But that such is life.
I almost feel like all that stuff, all those cool things that happened to you almost didn't happen because you don't have documentation of it. So when
I do have documentation, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I have kept a journal since 1986. So I will go back and look. I'll go back and look, and at least I can get into the mindset. I don't have the photographs or the video of it, but I do have what I wrote that day.
But I mean to prove to somebody, like you're at a party and you're telling them these
yeah.
stories, and they're like, "What?
Yeah.
No way."
The fact, like when I tell people, hey, when we were at Extreme Studios, we went to visit Jack Kirby 4 times and hung out at his house for several hours eating lunch, and while he held court. People go, what? Like, yeah, that Jack Kirby. And now it's like a distant memory. That was over 25 years ago.
Yeah, I still can't believe it was like you said, holding court. It was at San Diego early on. It was over at the Civic Center, and we were just hanging out. He was totally available. We were talking,
Yeah.
and I said, "What's the key to making comic books?" And he said, "Make it real." And I was like, "Make it real." It sounds like an oversimplification. He said, "Write about things you know." So
Right.
even though it's fantastic, he said it will always have a bit of reality if you can bring a story in that you've lived, or somehow things that happen to you that you can relate to this story or this character.
You're saying to connect. Hold on a second. There's some
go ahead.
technical thing happening. You guys are having
He may be frozen on the screen.
my side,
Yeah, it's not on the ins on
but he's frozen on that one.
this.
That might be internet connection. Ask the chat. We can ask the chat.
Yeah,
He's
I
saying
was
it's
watching-
frozen on one of these, and it's fine on your end.
Yeah, I was bopping back and forth between YouTube and StreamYard, and it looked good to me. You roboted a little bit. Your voice did, but images were still there.
Yeah. You could always check on my other phone, Matt. But we're gonna wrap up anyway. This has been the longest stream I've had so far, and it's gone the fastest, which is just crazy. That means a good time has been had. Rodwell Stevens just said it looks good. Frega Boom, what up, Everett Todd? Oh, look at that. Frega Boom, you trying to get your black flag pin. That's right.
3 times though. You got to do it.
You got to do it 3 times and screenshot it in 3 separate chat rooms. You got to spread the word.
Well, wait. How do they get in touch with you though? Through a website or?
You can most everybody on here is either on Instagram, on Facebook. Those are the 2 spots. Also, my email is my name at mac.com. So it's pretty easy to get me there, danfrega@mac.com. Don't inundate me. Just put 3 pictures and I did it. Give me my damn shit.
I saw those
address.
pins. I think you had like a prototype somewhere. They look pretty.
Yeah, no, I got 50 of them in a box. Sorry, 49 of them. One went out today in a box over here. And it's pretty cool, man. There's a lot of outlets out there. Like, again, in full transparency, I saw an offer I couldn't refuse. Sticker Mule said, get 50 buttons for $17. And I said, holy shit, that's a deal that I want to be part of. So I did it, and I immediately said black flag pins, and those are going to be limited. But now I want to use Sticker Mule for all kinds of stuff. They make packing tape where you can have your whatever artwork you want on a packing tape. So when you send off your stuff, fulfill your orders, you can have it in branded packing tape. You can have all kinds of stickers, buttons, bottle openers. You can do all kinds of things. So I think pins are great. I'm a big fan of pins. In fact, my man Stanley back here, this is Stanley. He's always in VR mode. This is how I keep company. He's got the old school Batman button. This is one that I had from 1989. I've also got my Kirby Museum enamel pin. I think those are great too. They're just a little more pricey, but I think it's a cool way for branding, and I think strong. I'm using the word again. Strong iconography wins the day. You can see a Pepsi logo from 100 yards. Rodwell says
you have the cool. I'm sorry, you had the cool red chevron with the black background, right?
Yep. I want someone to see it at 100 yards. And it's like that X-Men X, the Batman bat, the Superman S. There you go, the black and white yin yang with a target. That's where it's at. Well, Art, thank you again. Thank you to the gang in the Frega Boombox are called the Dudes, DOODZ. They took the word doodles and just flexed it. So I want to thank the dudes in the house, Art, Thibert. So cool, man. I'm still just like I'm riding high on it, man. I'm gonna have a hard time sleeping. I'm gonna be all vaped up. So I want to say thank you so much. We're gonna close out the stream, you guys. Do us a favor, check out Arts Indiegogo. Check out his channel too. From what I understand, Art, you put up some really cool stuff, and I look forward to all your future work and hopefully collaborating.
Yeah,
I think that would be fun.
And we should I should have you over on my YouTube, and we'll just keep doing like the bees do, and we'll cross pollinate, and we'll
I like it.
keep promoting each other's work, and keep basically cheerleading each other to do better and keep these IPs going strong.
Yeah, and to you guys, you're welcome. You guys, awesome stream. Have a great Wednesday. Tomorrow's the hump day. Today was taco day. I know because my wife made some tasty tacos.
Taco. Wait, today's Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, right?
That is correct. My house knows what day it is by the fact that it's tacos. What is that? Oh, it's Tuesday. Yeah. All right, man. Well, you be well. Thank you so much for everything, and we'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow. Art, thanks again, man. Be well.
Take care.
All right. There we are.